Hi guys. So now we are going to talk about something really important. Now we are going to address the elephant in the room, that is role of a project manager. This is probably one of the most important part of this entire training, this entire course, or in general when you talk about the field of project management. So who is a project manager? If you are already working somewhere, then you are probably aware of the project manager. You are already working with them. Project manager is a person who is, in short, performing the duties of project management. It's a functional manager. It is not a people manager, but sometimes, in fact, a lot of time you will find that project manager is also the people manager. But technically, they are not expected to be the people manager. It's a entirely different role. It's a functional role which sits under PMO, and their primary job is to track and monitor and execute projects. And the last point here about the timely delivery and within cost and quality, you can say that this point encapsulate what the entire role of project manager is. So this summarizes it in a very optimum way. You can say that project manager is not concerned about anything else, only and only about the delivery of project within cost and maintaining other factors like quality and of course timeline. And this is what is referred as project manager sphere of influence. So you can see project manager is in the center, at the heart of the project, and then you have teams and managers of the resources, other kind of managers. Then there is another layer where we have sponsors, governing bodies, steering committees, even PMO, that is in the third layer. And the stakeholders, supplied customers, end user, they are in the last layer. But project manager, the person, is sitting right in the center of a project. So if you are aspiring to become a project manager, you are one person who is going to drive. You are the commander of this ship. You are the pilot of this plane. So you have to be in control of things. And you will work with all these layers, because you cannot work in isolation. A project manager cannot work in isolation. You have to work with end users, all these steering committees, various project teams. So let's review these components of the this sphere. So basically, we have the project, the organization, the industry, professional discipline, and a cross discipline. So let's talk about them. The project here represent the project which is currently headed by the project manager. It's his or her job to meet the project's objective and stakeholders' objective. Basically, satisfy their business requirements. And under normal circumstances, it's not so easy. There are always constraints which a project manager has to face. So, the primary challenge of a project manager is to find out that sweet spot, that balance where all the requirements can be satisfied while keeping the constraints and every other factor, cost, time, in check within limits. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also about working with all these teams and stakeholders. Communication is one of the core activity of a project manager. So it is very important to keep communicating with all the stakeholders, whether it's a development team or end user or sponsors or anybody who's involved with the project. It's very important for a project manager to keep the communication on track. And that is why project managers must have good communication and interpersonal skills. And then we have the organization. So organization basically refers to the organization, the company, because all projects work under a company, under an organization, and chances are this project manager, this project is coexisting with other projects and other project managers. So it's very important for project managers to work with all the project managers and make sure that everything is in sync. Sometimes there's a big project which is impacting multiple systems. So in those cases, program managers can appoint multiple project managers who are dedicated towards certain systems. But there is a point where all these systems are interacting with each other, communicating with each other. So in that case, if all these project managers are not talking to each other and they are not making sure that their release and deployments are in sync, then they may end up messing up with the project. So it's very important for the project manager to interact with other project managers in the organization. Their primary job is to promote, advocate the values of their project, make sure that their project gets attention and the resources it needs. And depending upon the structure, a project manager may report to a functional manager sometimes, and they report to a PMO or a portfolio or program manager. So that is again part of organization. And then of course the industry, because all industry, I mean the construction will have its own way of doing things, the software will have its own way of doing things, some other, say, legal industry or entertainment industry. So project manager is responsible for making sure that they are following the current trends, they are up to date. So whether it's about some new technology or some new methodology, some new tools in the market, um, for example, right now, machine learning and artificial intelligence, DevOps, agile, safe agile, all these things are really new and popular. So project manager need to be aware of these resources, these technologies, these methodologies which are available, and he or she should review these to check if something can be used for the current project. And professional discipline basically refers to the professional development of the project manager. It's very important for project manager to maintain knowledge, to work on knowledge transfers, uh, get the skills required, and the like PMP certification. It's one of the best thing for project managers. So if you are planning to work as project manager, you must try to achieve this certification sooner or later. And across discipline basically represent the component where project manager they work with other teams to educate them on the fundamentals and concepts of the project management. And these are some of the core competencies of a project manager. They are represented as a triangle in the PMBOK. So it's like the technical project management, leadership, strategic, and business management. So it's a triangle where all these skills come together for a project manager. Technical project management refers to the technical competencies. For example, let's say it's a Java based project or it's a construction project. So in that case, a civil engineer will be a good project manager, or civil engineering would be a skill needed for a good project management. Leadership is again a core competencies, because you are working with various teams, you need to take initiative, you need to stay proactive. So leadership is really required. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all about looking at your constraints, limitations, and finding out the best way to implement the project. Therefore, strategic and business management is also very important. So all these three skills forms the core competencies which are needed in a good project manager. So these are some of the activities which are needed in technical project management methodologies like agile, waterfall, maintaining the cost, resource, planning, financials. All these things come under technical project management, which is where understanding the technical part of the project requirement is very important. You cannot come up with the financials if you don't understand the technology or the resources needed to implement the project. Similarly, these are some of the examples and the details for strategic and business management skills. So, domain knowledge is very important. Let's say you work in a life insurance company or a bank. So, even if you're not working as some banking clerk or banking professional or insurance professional, but if you are simply implementing an IT project there, unless until you understand the domain, how the actual end user, the banking operations, the clerks, the professionals operate, you will have tough time coming up with a strategy which will really satisfy the client's requirement. So it's very important to acquire and acquaint yourself with the domain knowledge. Stakeholder management is really vital. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to stay vigilant and proactive. Make sure that project stays on the track. And just to re-emphasize, I think leadership is very important for project managers, because a lot of time you will see that 60% of your activity will go in, communications, political management, and dealing with people. It's very important to understand that project manager is not just a technical role where you have to, do some addition, subtraction, and come up with numbers and, throw resources and get the work done. It's a lot about people. And as soon as you start to work with people, you are going to deal with political aspect of it. And political management is very important. Sometimes you will have stakeholders who are not interested in the project. Sometimes you have a stakeholder who are interested, but they want you to go and try to appease them, and so that they get some kind of ego satisfaction. So it's very important. Sometimes you have resources who have got conflicts, they have got vested interest in the failures of your project. So it's very important to understand who is what, and it is very important to understand the role of stakeholders, teams, various players, all the players in your organizations, in your project. So leadership skills are really required here. It's very, very important. So as a project manager, you need to build trust, you need to satisfy concern, seek consensus, balance out resources, and always make sure that you stay civil. No need to be very aggressive. Assertiveness is required, not aggressiveness. You don't have to offend someone or say something which can hurt someone. It's very important to stay ethical and integral. Being a good leader is also being a good team player. So you have to work with your team. Don't be very pushy. Sometimes your resources need some space, so you need to give it to them. And last, for this video, we have performing integrations. So this integration simply means how you are going to integrate things, bring things together to achieve a target. This is happening at the three levels here. The first level is the process level. So basically, as I have mentioned earlier, there are multiple activities which are required to be done in a project. Initiation, planning, you need to work out the scope, you need to work out the initial requirements. There are certain activities which may happen only once, let's say creation of a business case, but there are certain activities which will continue to happen throughout the project, like change controls. So requirements keeps on changing in a real world. So you will continue to receive these change requests, and you will have to go back and work with stakeholders. Let's say there's a business analyst, so you need to work with the business analyst to work their BA documents or BRDs, SRS, whatever they use. They need to go back to the stakeholders, rework with them, get it signed off, and whatever is needed to initiate that change. So there are activities which will happen multiple times, and you need to ensure that all these stakeholders are working together. So you need to perform this integration at the process level, which simply means that you have to integrate all these activities. You need to work at them. And then you have the cognitive level. It's more of a cultural aspect of the project management. Depending upon the organization, the team, you may have to apply, let's say, a leadership style, a working style. So at this stage, we are talking about the personality of the project manager. We are not talking about technical skills. We are talking about how you are going to apply all these various knowledge areas. So this integration is happening at the cognitive level of the project manager. And then we have the context. Everything in an organization happens in some context. So context simply means the current processes, current realities. Let's say you are looking to plan the communication. Now you need to reuse the existing communication channels. If you are looking to create documentation, then you need to reuse the templates. I mean, at least in most of the cases. Of course, if you need to create something new, again, that has to be done in the context of the existing realities of the project and organization. So this is very important to apply integration at these three levels. And of course, we will talk more about the integration, later in the course. So, but at this stage, we have to understand that there are three types of integration in a project: process, cognitive, and the context. That's it for now.